The space around Earth was quiet. Stars shone like tiny diamonds against the black sky. Far out, near the edge of the solar system, something changed. The darkness began to ripple. Jake Morrison sat in his chair at the Deep Space Monitoring Station. He was drinking his third cup of coffee when the screens in front of him started flashing red. Numbers rolled across the display faster than he could read them. Energy readings spiked higher than anything he had ever seen. "What the hell?" Jake muttered. He rubbed his eyes and looked again. The readings were still there. Something big was coming out of hyperspace. Jake grabbed his radio and called his supervisor. "Control, this is Morrison. We have massive energy signatures appearing at grid 77 Alpha. Something's coming through." The voice on the radio crackled back. "Morrison, run the diagnostic again. Those readings are impossible." "Already?" "Ran it twice, sir. This is real. We have unknown contacts emerging from hyperspace. Lots of them." Jake's hands moved quickly over his keyboard. The computer was trying to count the new objects, but the numbers kept changing. First 50, then 200, then more, much more. On his main screen, Jake watched as ship after ship appeared in the dark space. They were huge, bigger than anything humans had ever built. Their hulls were dark metal that seemed to absorb light. Strange symbols glowed along there, sides and colors that hurt to look at. The lead ship was massive. It was easily 10 times larger than Earth's biggest space station. Smaller ships formed around it like a deadly cloud. Jake counted over 500 vessels before he stopped trying. "Jesus Christ," he whispered. "Control, you need to see this. We have a full invasion fleet." Within minutes, Jake's small station was buzzing with activity. Admiral Susan Blake arrived by emergency transport, her uniform still wrinkled from sleep. She was followed by Dr. Lisa Grant, who carried a tablet filled with data about alien technology. "Show me what we're dealing with," Admiral Blake said. Jake pointed to the main screen. "They appeared 30 minutes ago. My computer says there are over 500 ships. A big one in the center is their command ship." Dr. Grant studied the images. She had spent years studying theoretical alien technology, but seeing it in person was different. Their energy signatures match plasma-based weapons, standard deflector shields. "This is exactly what we expected." "Expected?" Jake asked. Admiral. Blake looked at him. "Son, we've been preparing for this day for a long time. Alert NORAD and the Global Defense Council. Tell them Code Red Alpha is now active." Jake sent the message that would change everything. Across Earth, secret facilities began powering up. Men and women in hidden bunkers started their final preparations. The day humanity had trained for was finally here. On the alien command ship, Admiral Krickstahl stood on his bridge. He was tall and thin, with gray skin and large black eyes. His uniform was covered in medals from 100 conquered worlds. To him, this was just another routine invasion. "Status report," he commanded. His second officer, a younger alien with similar features, checked his instruments. "All ships in position, Admiral. The target world shows primitive technology, basic satellites, and simple space stations. They have no deep space defense network." Admiral Krickstahl nodded. "As expected, their scouts reported this world was barely past chemical rockets. This will be over quickly." The bridge crew worked efficiently. They had done this many times before. The pattern was always the same. Show overwhelming force, demand surrender, then occupy the planet. Most worlds gave up without a fight. "Begin standard approach," Admiral Krickstahl ordered. "Move the fleet to attack formation. Prepare the surrender demand." Back on Earth, Jake watched the alien ships begin to move. They formed a wide arc around the planet, positioning themselves for orbital bombardment. It looked like a textbook. Invasion formation. They're taking position, Jake reported. Looks like they're getting ready to attack. Admiral Blake smiled slightly. Good. Let them get comfortable. Dr. Grant, are you reading their communication frequencies? Dr. Grant nodded, her fingers flying over her tablet. Their signals are basic quantum entanglement communication. Nothing we can't handle. I'm also detecting their shield frequencies and weapon signatures. Everything matches our projections. Jake was confused. Ma'am, shouldn't we be scared? There are 500 alien warships out there. Morrison, Admiral Blake said. What do you know? About human military technology? Just what I see on the news, I guess. Rockets, jets, nuclear weapons. That's what we want everyone to think. The truth is very different. We've been ready for this day for decades. On her tablet, Dr. Grant showed Jake images of weapons he had never seen. Quantum disruptor cannons that could tear apart atoms. Antimatter warheads small enough to hide in satellites. Gravitational weapons that could crush steel like paper. The aliens developed predictable technology, Dr. Grant explained. Plasma weapons, energy shields, faster than light travel. We went a different direction. We focused on quantum physics and exotic matter. Jake stared at the images. You mean we're more advanced than they are? In some ways, yes. They focused on big ships and lots of firepower. We focused on making better weapons that work in ways they won't expect. Admiral Blake looked back at the screen showing the alien fleet. They think they're about to conquer a primitive world. They have no idea what they're really facing. The alien ships continued their approach. On each vessel, crews prepared for what they thought would be an easy victory. Weapons charged. Up, shields activated. Marines got ready to land on the planet's surface. Admiral Crusade stood confidently on his bridge. In a few hours, this world would be another trophy for the Empire. The humans would surrender, and his ships would return home with news of another successful conquest. But deep in space, hidden systems were already watching. On the moon, massive guns were turning toward the alien fleet. Around Earth, cloaked ships were powering up weapons that could destroy matter at the quantum level. The aliens thought they were the hunters. They had no idea they were about to become the prey. Jake Morrison looked at the screen one more time. The alien ships looked so powerful and frightening. But for the first time since they appeared, he wasn't afraid. Humanity had a surprise waiting for them. The real battle was about to begin. Admiral Crusade stood in front of the massive communication array on his bridge. The message he was about to send had worked on hundreds of worlds. It was simple and direct. Surrender or die. Open a channel to the planet, he commanded. The communication. Officer, a thin alien with pale blue skin, worked at his console. Channel open, Admiral. Broadcasting on all frequencies. Crusade cleared his throat and began the standard conquest message. Primitive beings of the third planet. I am Admiral Crusade of the Zephyrian Imperial Fleet. Your world has been selected for incorporation into our empire. You have one rotation of your sun to surrender completely. If you resist, we will destroy your cities and take your world by force. This is your only warning. The message was transmitted across space in seconds. It reached Earth's communication satellites and was immediately picked up by every government on the planet. In the White House, President Helen Carter was awakened by her security chief. She had been expecting this call ever since the alien fleet appeared. She dressed quickly and walked to the Situation Room, where the most important people in the world were waiting. How long do we have? She asked as she sat down. General Ryan Cross, a tall man with gray hair and serious eyes, looked at his watch. 23 hours and 42 minutes, Madam President. They're using standard Imperial conquest protocols. President Carter looked. around the room. These people had been preparing for this moment their entire careers. Gentlemen, ladies, this is what we trained for. Are all systems ready? Yes, ma'am, General Cross replied. All defense platforms are online. The lunar facilities are at full power. Our cloaked ships are in position. Dr. Lisa Grant leaned forward. Madam President, I've analyzed their message. They're using basic quantum communication. Their ship. Formations are textbook invasion tactics. They have no idea what they're facing. Good, President Carter said. Let's keep it that way. How long before they realize we're not what they expected? If everything goes according to plan, they'll never know until it's too late, General Cross answered. On the moon, Captain Amy Foster was making final preparations. Her ship, which looked like a simple cargo vessel, was actually one of 12 cloaked dreadnoughts. Each ship carried enough firepower to destroy a small planet. Status report, she said to her crew. Her weapons officer, Lieutenant Dan Miller, checked his instruments. Quantum disruptors at full charge. Antimatter torpedoes loaded. Gravitational wave generators ready. Excellent. Remember, we stay hidden until the Admiral gives the order. When we decloak, we need to move fast. In the hidden facility beneath Mount Rushmore, Dr. Matt Thompson was coordinating the Global Defense Network. His computers were connected to every weapon platform in the solar system. From his chair, he could control enough firepower to destroy the alien fleet 10 times over. Communication check, he said into his headset. All stations report. Voices came back from around the solar system. Moon Base Alpha ready. Mars Station ready. Asteroid Belt Mining Platform ready. Each location was actually a heavily armed military base disguised as something peaceful. Lieutenant Colonel Steve Parker was on the real Mars Station, which the aliens thought was just a research facility. In reality, it housed the most powerful railguns humans had ever built. They could fire projectiles at 30% of light speed. Targeting solutions calculated, he reported. We have firing solutions on all alien ships. Waiting for your order. Back on Earth, Admiral Susan Blake was in the main command center. She could see everything from her position. The alien fleet was moving slowly toward Earth, confident and relaxed. They had no idea that hundreds of weapons were already aimed at them. Status report from all stations, she ordered. Lunar railguns ready, came the first response. Cloaked. Fleet ready. Antimatter satellites ready. Quantum disruptor network ready. Admiral Blake smiled. Maintain positions. Let them come closer. On the alien command ship, Admiral Crickstall was growing impatient. The humans hadn't responded to his message. This was unusual. Most worlds sent some kind of reply, even if it was just begging for mercy. Any response from the planet? He asked. No, Admiral. Complete radio silence. Crickstall thought about this. Perhaps they're too primitive to understand the message. Or maybe they're so scared they can't respond. His tactical officer, a large alien with red skin and 4 arms, studied the display. The planet shows no military buildup, no ships launching, no weapons platforms activating. They appear to be completely helpless. Good, Crickstall said. Begin the approach. Standard formation. We'll show them our power before we give them a chance to surrender again. The alien fleet began moving toward Earth. 500 ships formed. A perfect attack formation. They moved slowly, wanting the humans to see their overwhelming power dot in the command center. President Carter watched the aliens approach. How much closer do we let them get? Wait until they're past the asteroid belt, Admiral Blake replied. Once they're in the gravity well, they can't escape quickly. Dr. Grant was watching her instruments carefully. Their shields are at minimal power. They're not expecting any resistance. This is perfect. On the moon, Captain Foster was getting excited. Her crew had trained for this moment for years. They had practiced the attack pattern hundreds of times. All ships, this is Foster. Stay calm. Wait for the signal. The 12 cloaked ships were spread around Earth's orbit. Each one was invisible to the alien sensors. The enemy had no idea they were there. Dr. Thompson was monitoring the quantum communication network. Every human weapon in the solar system was connected. When the attack began, they would all fire at exactly the same moment. Network synchronization complete, he reported. All weapons will fire within 1 millisecond of each other. Lieutenant. Colonel Parker was making final adjustments to his railguns. The projectiles were made of tungsten and titanium, materials that could punch through almost anything. At the speed they would be traveling, they would hit like nuclear bombs. Railguns charged and ready, he reported. We have clear firing solutions on the enemy command ship. Admiral Blake was watching the tactical display. The alien ships were getting closer. Soon they would be in the perfect position. All stations prepare for Operation Hammerfall. Final weapons check. Reports came back from around the solar system. Every weapon was ready. Every system was working perfectly. The aliens were walking into the most deadly trap in human history. The alien command ship, Admiral Crusade, was feeling confident. The human world was getting larger on his screen. Soon his ships would be in orbit, and the real conquest would begin. Prepare for orbital bombardment, he ordered. Target their major cities. We'll give them one more chance to surrender before we destroy them. His weapons officer began charging the plasma cannons. The alien ships prepared to attack what they thought was a defenseless world. But hidden in the darkness of space, humanity was ready. The trap was set. The aliens were almost in position. In a few more minutes, they would learn that Earth was not as helpless as they thought. The battle for Earth was about to begin, and the aliens had no idea they were already defeated. Admiral Crusade looked at the blue planet growing larger on his screen. It was beautiful, with white clouds and brown continents. He had conquered many worlds, but this one looked especially peaceful. That would make the victory even sweeter. Distance. To target? He asked. Entering the outer gravity well now, Admiral. Will be an optimal bombardment position in 2 hours. Crusade nodded with satisfaction. The humans still hadn't responded to his message. They were probably too scared to think clearly. Or maybe they were hoping the aliens would just go away. Spread the fleet in standard invasion formation, he ordered. I want every ship in position for orbital bombardment. Show these primitives the power of the Empire. The 500 alien ships moved into a wide arc around Earth. Each captain knew his job. They had done this many times before. The smaller ships would target military installations. The larger ships would destroy cities. The command ship would coordinate everything. In the command center beneath Washington, Admiral Blake was watching. Every move. The aliens were positioning themselves exactly where she wanted them. They were following their standard tactics perfectly. They're taking the bait, she said quietly. All ships maintain radio silence. Let them think we're helpless. President Carter was standing next to her, watching the tactical display. How long until they're in position? 1 hour and 57 minutes, Admiral Blake replied. They're moving slowly because they think there's no threat. That's perfect for us. Dr. Grant was analyzing the alien formations. They're using the same attack pattern from the Rigel system. Same formations, same ship spacing. They never change their tactics. That's their weakness, Admiral Blake said. They've been so successful that they've become predictable. We know exactly what they're going to do. On the moon, Captain Foster was watching the alien fleet through her ship's sensors. Her vessel was completely invisible to their scanners. The cloaking technology was based on quantum field manipulation, something the aliens had never developed. "They're coming right at us," she said to her crew. "Look at them. They think they're so powerful." Her weapons officer, Lieutenant Dan Miller, was excited. "Captain, our quantum disruptors are fully charged. We can take out 50 ships with our first volley." "Patience, Dan. We wait for the signal. When we attack, we need to hit them all at once. No survivors." The cloaked ships were spread throughout Earth's orbital space. Each one was a masterpiece of human engineering. They combined the best of human technology with weapons that could manipulate matter at the quantum level. Deep in space, the asteroid belt mining platforms were preparing for battle. To the aliens, it looked like simple mining equipment. In reality, they were massive weapons platforms with enough firepower to destroy a planet. Lieutenant Colonel Steve Parker was making final adjustments to his railguns on Mars. The projectiles were loaded and ready. Each one was a solid tungsten rod that would hit the alien ships at impossible speeds. "Targeting computer locked on the command ship," he reported. "First shot will take out their admiral. Second shot will destroy their communications." Dr. Thompson was coordinating everything from his hidden facility. His quantum communication network allowed all human forces to work together perfectly. When the attack began, every weapon would fire at exactly the same moment. "Final synchronization check," he announced. "All stations report readiness." The responses came back immediately. "Moon base ready. Mars station ready. Cloaked fleet ready. Antimatter satellites ready." Every human weapon in the solar system was prepared for battle. Admiral Blake was watching the countdown timer. 1 hour and 30 minutes until optimal firing position. "All stations, prepare for final attack sequence." On the alien command ship, Admiral Crusade was feeling very confident. His ships were in perfect position. The human world was completely quiet. There were no military ships launching. No weapons platforms activating, nothing at all. "They're not even trying to defend themselves," he said to his tactical officer. "This is going to be the easiest conquest in Imperial history." His communications officer looked confused. "Admiral, I'm still not detecting any military transmissions from the planet. No emergency broadcasts. No evacuation orders. Nothing." "They're probably too primitive to coordinate a defense," Crusade replied. "Or maybe they're so scared they can't function. Either way, this makes our job easier." The alien weapons officer was charging the plasma cannons. "All ships report ready for orbital bombardment. We can begin firing on your command." "Excellent. In 1 hour, we'll give them one final chance to surrender. If they don't respond, we'll destroy their major cities. Then we'll land troops and take control." What Admiral Crusade didn't know was that his every word was being monitored. Human listening posts were recording every alien communication. Dr. Grant was translating their language in real time. "They're planning to start bombardment in 1 hour," she reported. "They still think we're helpless." "Perfect," Admiral Blake said. "Let them get comfortable. The closer they are, the more devastating our attack will be." President Carter was amazed by the preparation. "How long have we been planning this?" "Since the 1950s, General Cross replied. "We've been developing advanced weapons and hiding them from the world. Everyone thinks our military uses conventional technology. They have no idea what we're really capable of." On the moon, Captain, Foster was conducting final weapons checks. Her ship's quantum disruptors could literally erase matter from existence. The antimatter torpedoes could destroy entire city blocks. The gravitational wave generators could crush steel like paper. "All weapon systems green," Lieutenant Miller reported. "We're ready to show these aliens what human engineering can do." The 12 cloaked ships were positioned perfectly. Each one was aimed at a different section of the alien fleet. When they attacked, they would hit from all directions at once, Dr. Thompson was watching his countdown timer. 30 minutes to optimal firing position. All stations, begin final preparations. Lieutenant Colonel Parker was loading the final tungsten projectiles into his railguns. Each one was perfectly machined and designed to penetrate alien shields. At the speed they would be traveling, nothing could stop them. Mars Station ready for railgun bombardment, he reported. We'll punch holes right through their command ship. Admiral Blake was studying the tactical display one final time. The alien ships were spread out perfectly. They were confident and relaxed. They had no idea that hundreds of weapons were aimed at them. All stations, this is Admiral Blake. In 25 minutes, we will show these invaders what happens when you threaten Earth. Remember your training. Remember your duty. Today, humanity takes its place among the stars. The alien fleet continued its slow approach to Earth. Admiral Crusade was already planning his victory speech. His ship captains were discussing how to divide the spoils of voyage. Conquest. None of them noticed the small energy signatures that were beginning to appear on their sensors. Admiral, the sensor officer said, I'm detecting some unusual readings near the planet. What kind of readings? I'm not sure. They're very faint. Probably just solar interference. Crusade wasn't worried. Ignore it. Focus on the bombardment targets. But those faint readings were human weapons powering up. The trap was almost ready. In just a few more minutes, the aliens would learn that Earth was not the helpless world they expected. The battle for Earth was about to begin, and it would be over before the aliens knew what hit them. Admiral Crusade stood on his bridge, watching Earth grow larger on the main screen. His fleet was now deep in the planet's gravity well. Perfect position for orbital bombardment. He had conquered 47 worlds using this exact same formation. All ships in position, Admiral, his tactical officer reported. Ready for final bombardment on your command. Excellent. Open a channel to the planet. Give them one last chance to surrender. The communications officer nodded. Channel open, Admiral. Crystal stepped forward and spoke into the transmitter. Humans of Earth, this is your final warning. You have ignored our previous message. Surrender now, or we will destroy your cities. One by one. You have 10 minutes to respond. In the command center, Admiral Blake heard the message. She looked at President Carter and smiled. 10 minutes. That's perfect timing. All stations, this is Admiral Blake. The enemy is now in optimal position. Begin final attack sequence. Operation Hammerfall is now active. Around the solar system, humans began their final preparations. On the moon, Captain Foster was watching. Her tactical display. The alien ships were spread out in a perfect arc. They couldn't have positioned themselves better for her attack. All weapons charged and ready, Lieutenant Miller reported. Quantum disruptors at full power. Antimatter torpedoes loaded. Gravitational wave generators online. Remember, Captain, Foster said to her crew, we decloak and fire in one synchronized attack. No warnings, no mercy. These aliens came here to destroy our home. The 12 cloaked ships were positioned throughout Earth's orbit. Each one was a masterpiece of human engineering. They had been waiting in complete silence. Invisible to the alien sensors, Dr. Thompson was coordinating the final attack from his hidden facility. His quantum communication network connected every human weapon in the solar system. When he gave the signal, they would all fire at exactly the same moment. All stations, final weapons check. Report status. The responses came back immediately. Moon Base Alpha. All railguns ready. Mars Station. Railguns charged. Asteroid Mining Platform 7. Antimatter charges armed. Cloaked Fleet. All ships ready for attack. Lieutenant Colonel Parker was making final adjustments to his targeting. Computer on Mars. The tungsten projectiles were loaded and ready. Each one would hit the alien ships at 30% of light speed. Targeting solution locked on the command ship, he reported. First shot will penetrate their bridge. Second shot will destroy their engines. Admiral Blake was watching the countdown timer. 5 minutes to attack. All stations, prepare for synchronized assault. On the alien command ship, Admiral Crusade was growing impatient. The humans still hadn't responded to his final warning. This was unusual. Most worlds either surrendered immediately or at least tried to negotiate. No response from the planet? He asked. Nothing, Admiral. Complete radio silence. Crusade thought about this. Perhaps they're too primitive to understand. Or maybe they're preparing to surrender and don't know how to respond. His weapons officer was standing ready. All ships report plasma cannons charged and ready. We can begin bombardment on your command. Good. In 3 minutes, we'll start with their largest city. That should get their attention. What Admiral Crusade didn't know was that his ship was already in the crosshairs of dozens of human weapons. The tungsten projectiles from Mars were aimed at his bridge. The quantum disruptors from the cloaked ships were locked onto his engines. The antimatter satellites were positioned to destroy his entire vessel dot in the command center. Admiral Blake was watching the final seconds tick down. 2 minutes to attack. All stations, arm all weapons. This is for Earth. Dr. Grant was monitoring the alien communications. They're about to start bombing our cities. We need to attack now. Agreed, Admiral Blake said. All stations, begin final countdown. Attack in 60 seconds. On the moon, Captain Foster was gripping her command chair. Her crew was ready. The alien ships had no idea what was about to happen to them. 30 seconds to attack, she announced. Remember, we decloak and fire simultaneously. No alien ship survives this battle. Dr. Thompson was watching his master control panel. Every human weapon in the solar system was connected to his system. When he pressed the button, it would be the most coordinated attack in human history. 15 seconds to attack. All stations, final confirmation. Moon base ready. Mars station ready. Cloaked fleet ready. Antimatter satellites ready. Admiral Blake was watching the tactical display. The alien ships were perfectly positioned. They were confident and relaxed. They had no idea they were about to be destroyed. 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Attack. Dr. Thompson pressed the button that would change human history forever. In that instant, everything happened at once. The 12 cloaked ships around Earth suddenly appeared as their cloaking fields dropped. Their quantum disruptors fired beams of pure energy that could tear apart matter at the atomic level. Captain Foster's ship fired first. Her quantum disruptors hit 3 alien vessels simultaneously. The enemy ships didn't just explode, they simply ceased to exist. One moment they were there, the next moment there was nothing but empty space. Direct hit, Lieutenant Miller shouted. 3 ships completely destroyed. All 12 cloaked ships were firing at once. The quantum disruptors were creating holes. In reality itself, alien ships were being erased from existence faster than their crews could understand what was happening. From Mars, Lieutenant Colonel Parker fired his railguns. The tungsten projectiles crossed the distance to Earth in seconds. They hit the alien command ship with the force of nuclear weapons. Direct hit on the command ship, he reported, penetrating their bridge. On the alien command ship, Admiral Crusade was thrown to the floor as his vessel shook violently. Sparks flew from control panels. The lights went out. Emergency alarms started screaming. What's happening? He shouted. His tactical officer was staring at his instruments in shock. Admiral, we're under attack. Unknown weapons are destroying the fleet. Impossible. These humans have no advanced technology. But even as he spoke, Krikstal could see alien ships disappearing from his tactical display. Not just destroyed, completely gone. It was as if they had never existed. The antimatter satellites around Earth are firing their warheads. Each explosion created a small sun that vaporized everything within miles. Dozens of alien ships were caught in the blasts. From the asteroid belt, the disguised mining platforms were firing their own weapons. Gravitational wave generators were creating artificial gravity wells that crushed alien ships like tin cans. The lunar rail guns were firing continuously. Tungsten projectiles were punching through alien shields as if they were made of paper. The enemy ships had no defense against weapons that moved at such incredible speeds. In less than 1 minute, over 200 alien ships had been destroyed. The survivors were trying to retreat, but they were trapped in Earth's gravity well. They couldn't escape fast enough. Admiral Blake was watching the tactical display with satisfaction. Continue firing. Don't let any of them escape. Captain Foster's ship was moving through the alien formation like a shark through fish. Her quantum disruptors were erasing ship after ship. Her antimatter torpedoes were creating explosions that could be seen from Earth. 17 ships destroyed and counting. Lieutenant Miller reported, "These aliens have no idea what they're fighting." The alien fleet was falling apart. Ships were exploding all around them. Their weapons couldn't even target the human vessels. The cloaked ships were moving too fast and using technology the aliens couldn't understand. Admiral Krikstal was realizing the truth. The humans weren't primitive at all. They were far more advanced than his empire. They had been hiding their true capabilities. All ships retreat. He screamed into his communicator. Emergency jump to hyperspace, but it was too late. The human attack was devastating and coordinated. In 4 minutes and 37 seconds, the entire Zephyrian Imperial fleet was destroyed. Only one ship remained, Admiral Krikstal's command vessel, and it was badly damaged. The battle was over. Earth had won. Admiral Krikstal stood on his damaged bridge, staring at the tactical display in complete shock. Where moments before there had been 500 proud warships of the Zephyrian Empire, now there was only empty space filled with debris and radiation. His ship was the only one left. The bridge was dark, except for emergency lighting. Sparks flew from broken control panels. The smell of burning circuits filled the air. Half his crew was dead or injured. "Status report," he said weakly. His surviving tactical officer looked up. From his damaged console, "Admiral, the entire fleet is gone. All ships destroyed. We have massive hull damage. Life support is failing. Weapons are offline." Krikstal couldn't believe it. In his long career, he had never seen such devastating firepower. The human weapons didn't just destroy ships, they made them disappear completely. He had never encountered technology like this. How long did the battle last? He asked. 4 minutes and 37 seconds, Admiral. 4 minutes. An entire Imperial fleet destroyed in 4 minutes. It was impossible, but the evidence was all around him. The humans had been hiding their true capabilities. They weren't primitive. At all. In the command center on Earth, Admiral Blake was watching the final moments of the battle. The alien debris was scattered across a huge area of space. Only one ship remained, the command vessel. "All stations, cease fire," she ordered. "Target the surviving ship, but do not destroy it. We need to send a message." President Carter was standing next to her, amazed by what she had just witnessed. "In 4 minutes, we destroyed their entire fleet?" "Yes, Madam President. Our weapons worked exactly as planned. The aliens never had a chance." Dr. Grant was analyzing the battle data. "Their technology is exactly what we expected. Plasma weapons, energy shields, conventional propulsion. They developed along predictable lines. we took a different path. Admiral. Blake nodded. While they were perfecting bigger ships and more firepower, we were developing quantum weapons and exotic matter manipulation. They can't defend against weapons that work at the atomic level. On the moon, Captain Foster was surveying the battlefield. Her ship had personally destroyed 17 alien vessels. The quantum disruptors had worked perfectly. The enemy ships had simply ceased to exist. Captain, Lieutenant Miller said, we're receiving new orders. We're to escort the surviving alien ship to the edge of the solar system. Understood. But first, let's make sure they know who won this battle. Captain Foster opened a communication channel to the alien command ship. Alien vessel, this is Captain Foster of the Earth Defense Force. You are defeated. Your fleet is destroyed. Prepare to receive a message from our leadership. In the White House Situation Room, President Carter was preparing for the most important speech of her life. This message would be sent to an alien empire. It would announce humanity's presence to the galaxy. Are you ready, Madam President? Admiral Blake asked. As ready as anyone can be for this, President Carter replied. Open the channel. The communication link was established. President Carter could see the alien admiral on her screen. He looked shocked and defeated. His uniform was torn and dirty. His ship was clearly damaged. I am President Carter of the United Earth Government, she began. You came to our world expecting to find a primitive civilization. You thought we would be easy to conquer. You were wrong. Admiral Crusade listened to the translation with growing understanding. These humans had been preparing for this moment. They had hidden their true capabilities and allowed his fleet to walk into a trap. Your empire made a mistake, President Carter continued. You attacked a world you didn't understand. We could have destroyed your entire fleet before you entered our solar system. What you witnessed was merely a demonstration of our defensive capabilities. General Cross stepped forward. Your weapons and technology are primitive compared to ours. While your empire focused on conventional warfare, we developed quantum manipulation, antimatter weapons, and gravitational control. You cannot defeat us, Dr. Grant added her own message. We have been watching your empire for decades. We know your tactics, your technology, your weaknesses. You are not as advanced as you think you are. Admiral Crusade found his voice. How is this possible? Our scouts reported that your world had only basic technology. Chemical rockets, simple satellites. President Carter smiled slightly. That's what we wanted you to think. We've been hiding our true capabilities for over 70 years. Every piece of primitive technology you observed was carefully designed to make you underestimate us. But why? Crystal asked. Why hide your power? Because we knew that someday someone like you would come, Admiral Blake replied. We prepared for this day. We built weapons that could destroy any enemy foolish enough to threaten our world. On his damaged bridge, Admiral Crusade was beginning to understand. The humans hadn't just defeated his fleet, they had completely outmaneuvered his entire empire. They had made the Zephyrians believe, Earth weak and defenseless. What do you want from me? He asked. President Carter's expression became serious. You will return to your empire. You will tell them exactly what happened here. You will explain that Earth is under the protection of humanity, and we are far from primitive. You will tell them, General Cross added, that any future attacks on Earth or human colonies will be met with complete destruction. We have weapons positioned throughout this solar system. We can destroy any fleet, anytime. Admiral Crusade looked at his tactical display one more time. The debris from his once mighty fleet was still floating in space. 500 ships destroyed in less than 5 minutes. The humans weren't just advanced, they were terrifyingly efficient. I understand, he said quietly. But my ship is badly damaged. I'm not sure we can make it back to Imperial space. We'll help you with that, Admiral Blake said. Captain Miller, escort the alien ship to the edge of our solar system. Make sure they have enough power to reach their territory. Captain Dan Miller was commanding the stealth ship Silent Thunder. He had been watching the battle from a safe distance. Now he would have the honor of escorting the defeated enemy away from Earth. Understood, Admiral. Moving to escort position. Now, the Silent Thunder appeared next to the alien command ship. It was sleek and black, almost invisible against the stars. To Admiral Crusade, it looked like a ship from a nightmare. Alien vessel, this is Captain Miller. We will escort you to the edge of our solar system. Follow our course exactly. Any deviation will be considered an act of war. As the two ships began their journey toward the outer planets, Admiral Crusade sent a message to his surviving crew. Prepare a full report of everything that happened here. The Empire must know the truth about these humans. His communications. Officer was working at a damaged console. Admiral, I'm detecting other alien fleets throughout the galaxy. They're all changing course away from Earth. What do you mean? It appears that news of our defeat is already spreading. Other empires are avoiding this solar system. Back on Earth, Dr. Thompson was monitoring galactic communications. His advanced listening hosts were picking up alien transmissions from across the galaxy. The news was spreading faster than he had expected. Admiral Blake, he reported, we're detecting emergency transmissions from over 20 different alien civilizations. They're all talking about what happened here. What are they saying? They're calling Earth a death world. They're warning each other to stay away from human space. Some are calling us the Quantum Warriors because of our weapons. Admiral Blake was pleased. Good, let them spread the word. The more they fear us, the safer Earth will be. President Carter was watching the escort mission on the main screen. The alien ship was limping toward the edge of the solar system, heavily damaged, but still functional. In a few hours, it would be gone. Do you think they'll be back? She asked. Not for a very long time, Admiral Blake replied. They know now that we're not an easy target. Word will spread to other empires. They'll think twice before coming here. As the alien ship reached the outer edge of the solar system, Captain Miller sent his final message. You are now leaving human space. Remember what you've seen here. Remember what happens to those who threaten Earth. Admiral Crusade looked back at the blue planet one last time. It looked so peaceful and innocent, but he knew the truth now. Hidden beneath that beautiful surface was a civilization capable of destroying entire fleets in minutes. Engage hyperspace drive, he ordered. Take us home. The damaged alien ship disappeared into hyperspace, carrying its message of defeat back to the Zephyrian Empire. Admiral Crusade would spend the rest of his life trying to warn other civilizations about the dangerous humans of Earth. On Earth, the victory celebration was quiet and professional. The world's leaders knew that this battle was just the beginning. They had announced their presence to the galaxy. Now they had to be ready for whatever came next. Admiral Blake stood in the command center, looking out at the stars. Today, humanity took its first step onto the galactic stage. We've shown the galaxy that Earth is not helpless. We're not primitive. We're not afraid. President Carter nodded. And now they know that if they come to our world looking for conquest, they'll find something much more dangerous than they expected. In the hidden facilities around the solar system, human crews were already preparing for the next threat.
The massive ships appeared without warning. One moment, Earth's skies were clear. The next, 12 enormous vessels hung in orbit, each one larger than the largest human city. Panic spread across the globe. Traffic jammed every major highway as people fled urban centers. News channels showed the same frightening images, dark shadows falling over New York, Beijing, London, and other major cities as the alien ships positioned themselves. In Washington, D.C., Commander Samantha Kelly stood before the Emergency United Nations Assembly. At 42, she had served in the United Earth Defense Force for 20 years. But nothing had prepared her for this. Her uniform felt too tight around her neck as she addressed the gathered representatives. "We have limited options," she said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "Their technology is far beyond ours. Our most powerful weapons would barely scratch their hulls." The Secretary General leaned forward. "What do you suggest, Commander?" Samantha took a deep breath. "We must negotiate. Buy time." From the back of the room, a voice called out, "Time for what? Surrender?" The room fell silent as President Daniel Harper entered. Though he had aged considerably in his first term, his presence still commanded respect. "We will not discuss surrender," the President said. "Not now, not ever." At that moment, every screen in the room lit up with the same image. A tall, humanoid figure with gray-blue skin and eyes that seemed to contain galaxies. When it spoke, its mouth didn't move completely in sync with the words, "People of Earth, I am Admiral Lorex of the Jurani Imperial Fleet. Your world now falls under the protection and authority of the Eternal Empire. Resistance is futile and will result in significant loss of life. You have 48 Earth hours to surrender your governing authorities and military assets. We await your wise decision." The transmission ended. The room erupted in shouting. Miles away, in a secret research facility buried beneath the Nevada desert, Dr. Alan West watched the same transmission on a small monitor. Unlike the politicians, he didn't waste time with fear. The 50-year-old scientist turned to his team, pushing his glasses up his nose. "Get me everything we salvaged from the scout ship," he ordered. 3 years earlier, a small alien craft had crashed in the Arizona desert. The government had covered it up, bringing the wreckage to Alan's facility. For years, they had made little progress understanding the technology. Now, they had no choice but to solve its mysteries. Alan's assistant, Kate Johnson, pulled up the files. "What are you looking for?" "Weaknesses," Alan said simply. "Everything has them." Back in Washington, the emergency session had devolved into chaos. Some nations advocated immediate surrender to save lives. Others insisted on fighting, even against impossible odds. Samantha stood by the president as he addressed the assembly. "Again, we cannot make this decision alone. Each nation must return to their people. In 24 hours we reconvene and vote. But know this: America will not kneel." As the representatives filed out, President Harper pulled Samantha aside. "Tell me honestly, Commander, do we have any chance at all?" Samantha looked into the tired eyes of the man bearing the weight of humanity's future. "Sir, history is filled with technologically superior forces being defeated by determined resistance. The British Empire, Vietnam, Afghanistan. It's never about who has the bigger guns. It's about who's willing to lose more to win." The president nodded slowly. "Prepare your best defense plans, but pray we don't need them." Around the world, people reacted differently to the aliens' ultimatum. Some cities saw looting and violence. Others witnessed prayer gatherings in streets and parks. Many families simply huddled together at home, watching the enormous ships through windows or on television screens. In Chicago, police officer Lisa Rodriguez helped maintain order as best she could. The 35-year-old worked a double shift, breaking up fights and preventing store break-ins. "The world isn't ending today," she told a frightened store owner, "and we don't stop being human just because aliens showed up." As she drove through the unusually quiet downtown streets, she glanced up at the massive ship hovering above the city. Something inside her hardened with resolve. On the USS Defiance, a nuclear submarine patrolling the Atlantic, Captain Ryan Peters received encrypted orders to go deep and dark. The 44-year-old naval officer gathered his crew. "We may be witnessing the most important moment in human history," he told them. "But our job remains the same. We protect our people, no matter what comes." The submarine descended to depths where it could hide from detection, becoming one of humanity's few military assets not immediately visible to the watching aliens. In Nevada, Alan West hadn't slept. Coffee cups littered his desk as he pored over the alien technology. Something in the power systems looked familiar now, patterns he hadn't noticed before. "Kate," he called to his assistant. "Look at this frequency pattern. It's similar to our shield theories, but it's inverted." Kate studied the readings. "You think their shields work on this principle?" "I think," Alan said slowly. "We might have found our first advantage." The next day, representatives returned to the United Nations. Many looked like they hadn't slept. Some hadn't even changed clothes. President Harper took the podium. "Before we vote, I want to share something with you. Throughout last night, I received calls from citizens across America, not politicians or generals, but ordinary people. A farmer in Iowa, a teacher in Oregon, a nurse in Florida. None of them said surrender. All of them said the same thing. Earth is our home. We defend it." Samantha watched as the president's words changed something in the room. Backs straightened, chins lifted. The vote was not unanimous, but it was decisive. Earth would not surrender. As the 48-hour deadline approached, humanity prepared its answer. Military forces worldwide mobilized, knowing they faced impossible odds. Civilians stocked supplies or evacuated from major cities. In the White House Situation Room, Samantha Kelly helped craft the response to the aliens. The message was simple, just 4 words. "Earth does not kneel." The transmission went out exactly as the deadline expired. For several minutes, nothing happened. Some dared to hope the aliens were reconsidering. Then, without warning, bright beams of light shot down from the alien ships. Buildings in New York, Tokyo, and London vaporized instantly. The bombardment had begun. President Harper watched the destruction on multiple screens, his face ashen but determined. "And so it begins," he said quietly. Samantha nodded grimly. "Yes, sir. But this is just day 1. In Nevada, Alan West felt the facility shake from distant impacts. He didn't look up from his work. The clock was ticking now, and the future of humanity might depend on what he could discover about their new enemy. As dust and smoke rose from devastated cities around the world, the greatest struggle in human history began. The Jurani Empire had conquered dozens of worlds with ease. Earth would not be one of them. 6 months passed since the Jurani first attacked Earth. The world had changed completely. Cities that once shined with light now lay in ruins. The aliens had established bases in strategic locations across the planet. Large metal structures rose from the rubble of former capitals housing the invaders and their technology. But something unexpected had happened. The Jurani, who had conquered many worlds before Earth, found themselves facing constant attacks from humans who refused to accept defeat. Lisa Rodriguez no longer wore a police uniform. Dirt smudged her face as she crawled through a broken drainage pipe on the outskirts of what used to be Chicago. 6 people followed behind her, each carrying homemade weapons or stolen alien technology. "Remember the plan," she whispered. "We hit the fuel depot, plant the charges, and get out. No heroes today." Frank Miller nodded. The former Marine had taught their group how to make explosives from common materials. His large hands carefully protected the charges they would use today. "Their patrol passes by the south fence every 17 minutes, said Olivia Grant, the youngest of their group at only 23. Before the invasion, she had been studying electrical engineering. Now she created devices that could disrupt alien communications. "That gives us a small window." The night sky glowed purple where Jurani ships patrolled. Lisa checked her watch, a simple mechanical one, as digital devices could be tracked by the aliens. "Let's move," she said. Across the Atlantic Ocean, the USS Defiance remained one of the few surviving military vessels. Hidden in deep waters, Captain Ryan Peters had turned the submarine into a mobile command center for resistance operations in Europe and North Africa. Ryan studied maps spread across the table in the submarine's control room. Red marks showed known alien bases. Blue marks showed successful human resistance strikes. "The attack in Barcelona worked," said his second-in-command, Lieutenant Paul Wright. "Our people destroyed an entire weapons cache." Ryan nodded. "And the cost?" Paul's face darkened. 3 resistance fighters didn't make it out. Ryan added the information to his records. Every victory came with losses they could barely afford. But giving up was not an option. Any word from Nevada? Ryan asked. Message came through their secure channel yesterday. Dr. West says he's making progress. The submarine crew had no way of knowing how critical that progress would be. In the underground research facility in Nevada, Alan West hadn't seen daylight for months. The base had survived by being hidden deep beneath the desert, its power systems masked from alien detection. Alan's hair had grown longer, and a beard now covered his face. He barely noticed his appearance as he worked tirelessly on the alien. "Technology, I think I've got it," he said to Kate, who looked equally tired but determined. "The shield frequencies aren't random. They follow a mathematical pattern." He pointed to lines of code on his computer screen. "See this sequence? It repeats every 17 seconds. If we can time our weapons to hit exactly when the pattern reaches this point," he pointed to a specific section, "the shields will be at their weakest." Kate's eyes widened. "Can we communicate this to the resistance groups?" "We'll have to use the emergency broadcast system. It's risky, but this information could change everything." On the other side of the world, in what was once Beijing, Commander Samantha Kelly moved through shadows between destroyed buildings. After the initial attack, she had been separated from Washington and had spent months gathering intelligence and organizing resistance cells across Asia. The surviving Chinese military had joined forces with her, creating one of the largest resistance networks on the planet. Today she was meeting with a new and unexpected ally. The building had once been a small restaurant. Now it was just 3 standing walls and rubble. A figure waited inside, hidden in darkness. "Commander Kelly," said a voice that wasn't human. Samantha's hand moved to her concealed weapon, but she didn't draw it. "You said you had information." The alien stepped forward, its blue-gray skin catching the faint moonlight. It was smaller than most Jirani soldiers, with markings around its neck that indicated a scientific rank. "My name is Vex," it said in carefully practiced English. "I am part of a small group within the Empire who believe this invasion was wrong." Samantha remained cautious. "Why should I believe you?" "Because I can give you the patrol schedules for the next month and the access codes to the central communication hub in Seoul." Samantha had learned to hide her emotions well, but even she couldn't mask her surprise. If true, this information would be invaluable. "Why help us?" she asked. Vex's large eyes blinked slowly. "The Empire has conquered many worlds, but none have resisted like yours. Some of us have begun to question our leaders. Your people fight with a spirit our Emperor doesn't understand." Back in Chicago, Lisa's team had reached the alien fuel depot. Large containers of glowing blue liquid stood in rows, guarded by only 2 Jirani soldiers. The aliens had grown overconfident, believing the humans in this area had been pacified. Frank placed charges at strategic points while Olivia used her device to create a small disruption in the perimeter sensors. 2 minutes until the patrol returns," Olivia whispered. Lisa nodded. "Almost done." Suddenly a loud alarm blared from the compound. Something had gone wrong. "Run!" Lisa shouted, abandoning stealth. The team sprinted away as Jirani guards fired energy weapons at them. Blue bolts scorched the ground around their feet. Frank triggered the detonator early. The explosion wasn't as effective as planned, but the night sky lit up with blue fire as some of the fuel containers ruptured. As they ran through destroyed streets, Lisa counted her people. 5. 1 was missing. "Where's Carlos?" She gasped. "No," 1 answered. They couldn't go back now. That night, resistance cells across the planet reported similar missions, some successful, some not. But together, they formed a pattern of defiance that confused the Jirani military leaders. In orbit, around Earth, Admiral Lorex received reports from ground commanders. Human attacks had increased by 20% in the last month. Imperial casualties, while still small, were growing. "This is taking too long," said his second-in-command. "We should have controlled this planet within weeks, not months." Lorex stared at the blue planet below. Inform the Emperor. Tell him we need more forces. He didn't add what troubled him most. No species had ever resisted this long, and somewhere deep inside, a feeling he had never experienced before was growing. The humans called it doubt. 1 year had passed since the Jurani arrived. Earth was wounded but not defeated. The resistance had grown stronger, more organized. Small victories gave people hope. But everyone knew they needed something bigger to truly challenge the invaders. Commander. Samantha Kelly moved carefully through the underground tunnels beneath Sol. The city above had been one of the first to fall. Now it housed a major Jurani communications hub. Intelligence from Vex, the alien defector, had proven accurate so far. Tonight would be the true test. Everyone clear on the plan? Samantha asked the team of 12 fighters gathered around her. They nodded. Each person carried weapons combining Earth and Jurani technology. Months of raids had provided them with alien parts that human engineers had adapted for their own use. Remember, we need the command officer alive, Samantha reminded them. The data in his head is worth more than anything else. Across the ocean in the Nevada facility, Alan West waited anxiously by his communication equipment. His discovery about the shield frequencies had helped resistance fighters damage Jurani vehicles and smaller craft. But the major ships remained out of reach. Any word from Commander Kelly? He asked Kate, who monitored the secure channels. Nothing, yet, she replied. The operation should be starting now. Alan checked his watch. So much depended on tonight's mission. If Samantha could capture a high-ranking officer and the communication codes, they might finally learn the location of the Empire's supply lines. In Sol, Samantha gave the signal to move. Her team split into 3 groups, using maintenance tunnels that the Jurani didn't know existed. The aliens had mapped major infrastructure, but missed these older passages built during the previous century. The first group, led by a Korean resistance fighter named Jin, created a distraction 2 blocks away. Explosions rocked the night, drawing Jurani guards away from the communications hub. Samantha led her group through a service entrance using a device Olivia Grant had designed to disrupt the security sensors for exactly 45 seconds. "Move," she whispered, and they slipped inside. The interior of the Jurani facility looked alien. Curved walls glowed with soft blue light. Strange symbols marked different sections. Thanks to Vex's information, Samantha could read enough to navigate to the central control room. 2 guards stood outside their target. Before they could react, Samantha's team fired weapons designed by Dr. West. The energy bursts hit at precisely the frequency needed to penetrate the aliens' personal shields. Inside the control room, 3 Jurani officers worked at terminals. The one with red markings on his uniform, the commander, reached for an alarm. A human fighter fired, hitting the alien's arm. The Jurani commander fell back, injured but alive. "Secure him," Samantha ordered. "Download everything from the main system." A resistance tech specialist connected a device to the alien computer. It began copying files using an interface Dr. West had designed based on the crashed scout ship technology. The commander stared at Samantha with large dark eyes. "You cannot win," he said in halting English. "The Empire spans 1,000 worlds." "We don't need to defeat your entire empire," Samantha replied. "We just need to make Earth too costly for you to keep." The download completed, and they began their retreat. The captured commander was bound and sedated. As they moved through the corridors, alarms finally blared. "Our exit is cut off," reported one fighter after checking ahead. "Secondary route," Samantha ordered, leading them down a different passage. They emerged 3 blocks away, just as Jurani forces surrounded their original exit point. Sol's resistance fighters helped them disappear into the maze of half-destroyed buildings and underground passages. Hours later, in a secure bunker, the team had their prize, the Jurani commander and the downloaded data. Human doctors familiar with alien biology kept the commander sedated while translators worked on the files. Samantha sent an encrypted message to all resistance cells. Package secured, data being analyzed. In the Atlantic, Captain Ryan Peters, received the message aboard the USS Defiance. He immediately ordered his communications officer to contact Nevada. "Dr. West needs to see everything they found," he said, "and prepare the ship. We may need to move soon." The data from Sol revealed something no one expected. The Girani had established a major supply depot not on Earth, but in orbit around Mars. The red planet had become their staging area, away from the constant harassment they faced on Earth. When this information reached the Nevada facility, Alan West called an emergency meeting with his team. "This changes everything," he said, showing them the location of the Mars depot on a large screen. "If we could hit them there, we'd cut off supplies to their forces on Earth." Kate looked skeptical. "How? We barely have functional aircraft alone spaceships that could reach Mars." Alan smiled for the first time in months. "Actually, we do. 3 space shuttles survived the initial attack. They were in underground hangars for maintenance. But they're not warships," another scientist objected. "They will be," Alan said confidently. "We've learned enough about Girani technology now. We can modify them." The plan was daring to the point of madness, but across the planet, resistance leaders agreed it was their best chance. If they could strike at the Mars depot, they might force the Girani to reconsider their occupation of Earth. In what remained of the Atacama Desert in Chile, engineers and pilots gathered in a hidden facility. The 3 surviving space shuttles had been transported there in pieces and reassembled underground. Now they were being modified with Girani technology. Colonel Jack Bennett, a former astronaut who had been training pilots in secret, examined the modified shuttles. At 52, he had never expected to fly again, certainly not on a mission like this. "Will they work?" he asked Alan, who had come to oversee the final preparations. "The shields will hold," Alan assured him. "And the weapons system is based directly on their own design. The real question is whether your pilots can handle them." Jack nodded toward the 12 men and women preparing nearby. "Best of the best. If anyone can do it, they can." The plan called for a small fleet, 3 modified shuttles carrying 24 fighters total, to launch in 5 days. They would use the sun's radiation to mask their approach to Mars, then strike the depot with everything they had. No one spoke about the return journey. Everyone understood this might be a one-way mission. As preparations continued, resistance cells worldwide increased their attacks on Girani positions. The goal was to keep the aliens focused on Earth while the real strike was prepared elsewhere. In orbit, Admiral Lorex grew increasingly frustrated. Reports of human attacks came from every continent. His forces were stretched thin, constantly, responding to new threats. "These humans don't know when they're beaten," he told his officers. "But soon the reinforcements from Mars will arrive. Then we'll end this resistance once and for all." He didn't know that humans had already learned about his Mars supply line, nor did he suspect that Earth's first counterattack beyond its own atmosphere was days away from launch. The resistance called it Operation Mars. Everyone involved knew the odds of success were small, but after a year of fighting just to survive, the chance to strike back gave them something they desperately needed: hope. The 3 modified shuttles launched from the Atacama Desert under cover of darkness. They rose through Earth's atmosphere, carrying humanity's hopes with them. Colonel Jack Bennett commanded the lead shuttle, renamed Courage. The other 2 were called Defiance and Hope. "All systems nominal," Jack reported as they cleared the atmosphere. "Engaging Girani shields." The shield technology Dr. West had adapted from alien designs hummed to life around each vessel. It would hide them from Girani sensors until they were ready to attack. "Remember," Jack told his pilots, "we follow the sun's radiation belt. Stay in its shadow until we reach Mars." On Earth, resistance fighters launched coordinated attacks on Girani positions worldwide. From the ruins of London to the beaches of Australia, humans struck with newfound boldness. The aliens were forced to focus on these immediate threats, never suspecting the real danger was already heading toward Mars. In his underground facility, Alan West monitored the shuttle's progress through a communication system designed to avoid Girani detection. "They're on course," he told Samantha Kelly, who had come to Nevada after the Sol mission. If all goes well, they'll reach Mars in 60 hours. Samantha looked at the display showing 3 small dots moving away from Earth. And if they succeed? Then the Jurani lose their main supply line. Their forces on Earth will be cut off. In orbit above Earth, Admiral Lorex received troubling reports from all sectors. Human resistance had suddenly intensified everywhere. His commanders requested reinforcements, but resources were stretched thin. Send word to Mars, Lorex ordered his communications officer. Tell them to expedite the next supply ships. We need more troops and equipment immediately. The officer hesitated. Sir, we've been having communication difficulties with the Mars station. There seems to be some interference. This wasn't coincidence. Olivia Grant, working with resistance technicians around the world, had created a massive jamming system targeting the specific frequencies the Jurani used for deep space communication. What Lorex didn't know was that his messages weren't reaching Mars, and they wouldn't arrive in time to warn the supply depot of what was coming. In the Jurani Imperial Palace, light years from Earth, Emperor Kalzak called an emergency meeting of his war council. The marble-like hall, with its towering columns made from materials unknown to humans, echoed with troubled voices. The Earth situation is becoming problematic, said the Imperial Minister of Conquests. Admiral Lorex reports resistance continues to grow, despite our superior forces. Emperor Kalzak's skin was a deeper blue than most Jurani, marking his royal bloodline. His eyes narrowed as he studied reports from the Earth campaign. One planet, he said, his voice dangerously quiet. One primitive planet has resisted us. For a full cycle, this is unprecedented. The humans are unusually adaptive, offered another minister. They learn our technology and turn it against us faster than any species we've encountered. More concerning, said an older counselor, reports indicate that rumors of Earth's resistance have reached 3 of our subject worlds. There have been incidents. The Emperor stood, his tall frame casting a shadow across the table. No more delays. Prepare the main fleet. We will make an example of Earth that the galaxy will not forget. As the Jurani leaders plotted Earth's destruction, Jack Bennett's small fleet approached Mars. The red planet grew larger in their viewports. So did the Jurani supply depot. It was enormous, a sprawling structure orbiting the planet like a metal moon. Dozens of ships docked at its various ports, loading supplies and troops destined for Earth. My God, whispered Jack's co-pilot. It's bigger than we thought. Jack studied the station. Stick to the plan. Target their power core and fuel reserves. We may only get one pass before they realize what's happening. He opened the channel to all 3 shuttles. This is Colonel Bennett. Remember what we're fighting for. Every living soul on Earth is counting on us. Let's make this count. The shuttles dropped out of the sun's shadow and accelerated toward the station. For precious seconds, the Jurani didn't notice them. When alarms finally sounded across the depot, it was too late. The modified Earth vessels fired weapons built from captured Jurani technology, targeting exactly the frequencies Alan had identified. The station's shields flickered and failed in those precise spots. Explosions bloomed across the depot's surface. Unprepared for attack, the Jurani scrambled to respond. Defensive weapons activated, filling space with energy beams. Evasive maneuvers. Jack ordered as his shuttle rocked from a near miss. The Hope wasn't as fortunate. A direct hit damaged its engines. We're losing power, came the pilot's voice over the comm. Complete your run, Jack told them. Make it count. The damaged shuttle accelerated directly toward the station's main fuel depot. The pilot's voice was calm over the radio. For Earth. The resulting explosion tore through the station's central section. Chain reactions spread across its structure. Docked ships tried to flee, but many were caught in the expanding destruction. Iabes, Defiance and Courage continued their attack runs, targeting key systems identified in the intelligence gathered from Sol. When they finally turned to leave, the Mars depot was breaking apart, debris raining down on the red planet below. Head home, Jack ordered, though he knew their chances were slim. Their fuel reserves were low, and Girani ships would surely pursue them. To everyone's surprise, no pursuit came. The surviving aliens were too busy trying to save what remained of their supply depot. Back on Earth, the news spread through resistance networks like wildfire. At first, many didn't believe it. A human victory in space seemed impossible. But when Girani forces suddenly stopped receiving supplies and reinforcements, hope spread. In Chicago, Lisa Rodriguez's team listened to the encrypted broadcast confirming the Mars mission's success. "They did it," Frank said, his voice filled with awe. "They actually did it." Lisa nodded, fighting back tears. "Now it's our turn. Gather everyone. We move on their ground base tonight." Similar scenes played out across the planet. Resistance fighters emerged from hiding by the thousands. For the first time, the occupiers found themselves surrounded in their own strongholds. Admiral Lorex stared at the report in disbelief. The Mars depot destroyed, supply lines cut. And now, humans attacking Girani positions everywhere at once. "Impossible," he muttered. But the evidence was undeniable. A junior officer entered his command center, visibly nervous. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the Imperial Palace." Lorex knew what this meant. The Emperor had heard of their failure. "Put it through," he said, preparing himself for the worst. Emperor Kalzak's face appeared on the screen, his expression unreadable. "The situation has changed, Admiral. The main fleet has been dispatched to Earth. You will hold position until they arrive." "Yes, Emperor. How soon can we expect them?" 20 Earth days. "And Admiral, when they arrive, there will be no more measured responses. Earth will be made an example of." As the transmission ended, Lorex felt something he had never experienced. In his long military career, fear. Not of the Emperor or his punishment, but of the humans who had somehow, against all odds, struck a blow that no one believed possible. The Mars miracle, as Earth would come to call it, had changed everything. 20 days after the Mars miracle, Earth prepared for the Empire's revenge. Everyone knew the Girani main fleet was coming. Intelligence gathered from captured alien officers suggested it would be the largest force ever assembled for a single, planetary conquest. In what remained of the White House, President Harper met with his War Council. The room had been rebuilt underground, safe from orbital bombardment. Maps and screens covered the walls showing Girani positions and human resistance strongholds. "They'll be here tomorrow," Harper said, his face lined with exhaustion, but his eyes still determined. "Admiral Lorex has already moved his ships to the far side of the moon to join them." Samantha Kelly pointed to images of the approaching fleet. "These vessels are much larger than what we've faced so far. The main battleship alone is the size of Manhattan." "Then we've lost," said one general. "No," Dr. Allen West interrupted. He had aged years in the months since the invasion began, but today he looked almost energized. "We have one more card to play." All eyes turned to him as he activated a display showing a massive energy shield surrounding Earth. "Is that possible?" Samantha asked. Allen nodded. "Using their own technology against them, we've been gathering components from every downed Girani, ship and base. If we link the resistance power networks worldwide, we can create a planetary shield." "For how long?" Harper asked. 3 days at most. But that's all we need." The president looked confused. "Need for what?" It was Samantha who answered. "For Colonel Bennett's mission." In a hidden lunar base established before the invasion, Colonel Jack Bennett prepared his new fleet. After returning from Mars, he and the surviving pilots had been secretly working on an even bolder plan. This time they weren't using modified Earth shuttles. They had captured intact Girani vessels during ground assaults on alien bases. Now these ships, repainted with Earth symbols, waited in the shadow of lunar craters. Jack addressed the pilots gathered before him. They were an international group, survivors from air forces around the world who had been trained to operate alien craft. "The Girani expect us to defend Earth," he told them. "They don't expect us to take the fight to them." He activated a holographic display showing not Earth, but a series of planets. "These are the nearest Girani-controlled worlds. While their main fleet attacks Earth, we'll strike at the heart of their empire. One pilot raised her hand. Sir, even with their ships, we're vastly outnumbered. Jack smiled. We're not going to win by destroying their military. We're going to win by destroying their myth of invincibility. He highlighted specific structures on each world. These are monuments to imperial power, symbols that tell conquered people the Jirani cannot be defeated. We're going to burn them to the ground. As the pilots prepared, Jack sent one final message to Earth. Operation Phoenix is go. Across Earth, resistance fighters activated the planetary shield components. In Chicago, Lisa Rodriguez and Frank Miller connected massive power cells to a converted Jirani generator. In what remained of Beijing, similar scenes played out. From the Amazon to the African plains, humans worked together on the planet's last defense. Olivia Grant, now coordinating global communications from the Nevada facility, monitored the shield's power levels. It's working, she told Kate Johnson. Shield integrity at 87% and holding. In orbit, Admiral Lorex watched as the main fleet arrived, hundreds of warships led by a massive dreadnought. Aboard the flagship, Grand Marshal Zorex, the Emperor's most decorated commander, took control of the operation. Report, Admiral, Zorex demanded. Lorex bowed. We've detected unusual energy readings from the planet's surface, Grand Marshal. It doesn't matter. Nothing can withstand the might of this fleet. Begin bombardment immediately. The attack began. Thousands of energy weapons fired simultaneously at Earth. The sky lit up with deadly light. But when the barrage hit the planetary shield, it dissipated in ripples of blue energy. The Grand Marshal stared in disbelief. Impossible. These primitives cannot have shield technology of this magnitude. What the Jirani commanders didn't notice was the small fleet of their own ships rising from the dark side of the moon. Jack Bennett led 20 captured vessels away from Earth, jumping to faster than light speed before they could be detected. While Earth's shield held firm, Jack's fleet arrived at the nearest Jirani colony world. The planet had been conquered decades earlier, its native population forced to serve the Empire. Target the Imperial Palace only, Jack ordered. No civilian casualties. The human-piloted Jirani ships descended on the unsuspecting world. Defense systems didn't fire, recognizing their own vessels. By the time the confusion cleared, Jack's pilots had released their payloads. The enormous statue of Emperor Kalzak, standing over half a mile high in the center of the capital, exploded in flames, visible across the continent. Similar monuments on the planet's other major cities fell simultaneously. As they departed for their next target, Jack broadcast a message on all frequencies. Earth fights. Earth does not kneel. You don't have to either. They repeated this pattern on 2 more worlds before the Jirani realized what was happening. By then, it was too late. News spread faster than their ships could travel. Rebellions erupted on worlds that had been quiet for generations. Back at Earth, the shield began to weaken under constant bombardment. President Harper, Samantha Kelly, and the resistance leaders knew they could not survive much longer. Then, something unexpected happened. The Jirani attack suddenly stopped. In orbit, Grand Marshal Zorex received urgent communications from the Imperial Palace. Emperor Kalzak himself appeared on screen, his usually composed features twisted with rage. Cease the attack, the Emperor ordered. Return to Imperial space immediately. But Emperor, we have them cornered. Rebellions have broken out on 12 worlds. The humans have somehow turned our own ships against us and struck at the heart of our territory. Return now to defend the Empire. As the transmission ended, Zorex turned to Admiral Lorex. Recall all forces, we're leaving. Lorex couldn't hide his shock. Abandoning the conquest? This has never happened in Imperial history. On Earth, people emerged from hiding to see Jirani ships withdrawing from orbit. At first, no one believed it was real. After so much suffering, the idea of victory seemed impossible. In the Nevada facility, they received Jack Bennett's transmission. Phoenix complete. Coming home. 2 days later, a Jirani diplomatic vessel entered Earth orbit under a flag of truce. The ship carried a message from Emperor Kalzak himself. immediate withdrawal from Earth, recognition of human sovereignty, and an offer of peace negotiations. President Harper met with his advisors to discuss the terms. "They're afraid of us," Samantha realized. "Not just our resistance, but what we represent. Other worlds are watching." Harper nodded. "We'll negotiate, but on our terms, and those terms include the freedom of the other species they've enslaved." When Jack Bennett's fleet returned to Earth, they were greeted as heroes. But the true victory wasn't just military. Humanity had done something unprecedented. They had forced the mighty Jurani Empire to retreat. In Chicago, Lisa Rodriguez watched children playing in a park being reclaimed from ruins. Frank stood beside her, his arm in a sling from the final battle. "Do you think they'll come back?" he asked. Lisa shook her head. "No. We showed them something they've never seen before. We showed the galaxy that empires can fall if people refuse to kneel." Across the stars, on planets that had known only imperial rule for generations, the fires of rebellion continued to burn. And they all began with one world that refused to surrender, Earth.